What Pastor Sean and I just shared is called the Annunciation. That moment in time when the angel Gabriel announces to Mary what is enfolding and unfolding within her and because of her. Looking back on this text over the years, we've reflected on such things about this explains Jesus' lineage. It explains a little bit about his title as Messiah and Savior. It even hints at his origins of being both human and divine. There is so much to explore in these 12 verses, but this morning I specifically invite you to linger with me and with Mary. A young teenage peasant girl living in Nazareth, a hilly area southwest of the Sea of Galilee. A virgin, engaged to Joseph, a descendant of Israel's greatest king, David. My study this week led me to an amazing discovery regarding Mary. Which is this? These 12 verses, this annunciation, this angel Gabriel talking to Mary, illustrates how we today should live out our faith authentically. Mary provides a blueprint of what it means to be faithfully authentic today. What happens in these 12 verses is a lesson in discipleship. Linger with me for a moment. We begin first with Mary's heart that was filled with fear. Verse 29, she was greatly troubled at the saying and tried to discern what sort of greeting this might be. I begin my reflection this morning making sure that we do not dismiss Mary's fear. The Greek word used here in the text means confused, perplexed. Indeed, the angel then assures her by saying, "Don't be afraid, you're highly favored by God." My goodness, if that didn't instill the fear of God within her. Don't dismiss her fear. And I began to think, isn't that where we all start? Continue and live out our faith. Whenever we experience something new, something different, whenever the C word creeps into our life, change. When something strange or outside the rhythm of our lives, we too get confused, which often makes our hearts fearful. Now, this is a good thing, as innately I believe we are hardwired, it's in our DNA, to respond to things that appear dangerous or risky or threatening. This defense mechanism can be a blessing and a curse. A curse when fear grips our entire being and controls us. When we become paralyzed by irrational fears, our hearts become breeding grounds that destroy creativity, that subdue opportunity, and entrench our hearts into a continual state of distress. Mary knew fear, but she didn't wallow in it. We know fear, and we overcome it. We live through it by what Mary did next. Look at Mary's mind that began to wander and wonder. She was fearful, but then she began to wonder in her mind. She responds by saying, "How will this be?" Mary asked the angel, "since I am a virgin." Mary is at a remarkable crossroads that teaches us a lesson this morning. Her response could have been, "No way. Things like that just don't happen. Just leave me alone." But instead, she asks, "How?" Oh, there's a big difference, friends. How will this happen? Her initial doubt, her initial fear now turns to wonder. What an amazing life lesson. Questions and doubts are good. I thought about that this week in my personal ministry. That if I do anything or have done anything in ministry, I hope I've given permission for people to question, to doubt. Doubts are necessary. They're necessary for our faith so that we might expand our understanding. Mary's doubts turned her toward wonder, toward possibility, toward miracle, and a deeper embrace of the mystery. I believe that an authentic faith asks the difficult questions that often leads to transforming discoveries of truth. Because I believe you cannot have faith without doubts. One cannot have faith without questions, without deep discernment. It began in Mary's heart with fear. It turned to Mary's mind that turned to wonder. But finally, we turned to Mary's spirit and saw submission. She says this, "Behold, I am the servant of the Lord. Let it be to me according to your word." From fear came wonder, and from wonder came surrender. Mary, in just a few words, affirms the bedrock of our faith. "I am your servant, Lord." Ponder that for a moment. I am your servant, Lord. Every year I read those words. On this second Sunday of Advent, I am awed by them. Here, a teenage girl who faces estrangement and rejection from her family, from her community, most definitely from her fiancé, submits her life to God. So Advent reminds us this morning that when all is said and done, we too must make a decision this morning. In our fear, in our confusion that is meshed with our questions and doubts, we must decide, am I a servant or am I a master? Am I a servant alongside Jesus, or am I a master born from my own self-interests and ego? I end with this question as we prepare for Holy Communion. What hard thing is God calling you to do? What hard thing is God calling us to do as a community of faith? Oh, there's no doubt this pandemic is hard, has been hard, and will continue to become more difficult. But I will guarantee you that in the midst of that, in the midst of the days to come, God is going to be calling all of us to something difficult, something that seems impossible, something that we never saw coming. It might just bring fear that I pray will lead us to wonder, that ultimately leads us to submit our lives to Emmanuel, to the God that is with us.